got a real problem with what Mayor de Blasio is trying to do in New York.
Now, the Big Apple's new chief executive, he took progressivism now to a whole new level.
We're talking about basically Marxist ideas.
He's going to slap down twice. He wanted to raise taxes right away, and then he wants to raise minimum wage right away.
De Blasio's example of courageous leadership is, I will change the city of New York, and rich people will not pay more than a small soy latte. How do you ridicule somebody who themselves is already saying soy latte?
Charlie, you've been warning and saying that this guy is to the left of left and makes prior liberal mayors pale by comparison. What do you mean by that? Why are you worried?
Well, I call him Comrade Bill de Blasio.
The new scourge of the American right, the man who has conservatives quaking in their boots as he channels the populism of our time, in America's financial capital, no less, is none other than New York's mayor, Bill de Blasio, the city's first Democratic mayor in 2 decades, whose blowout, commanding electoral victory was rooted in a very specific campaign focusing on inequality. He called for an end to the NYPD's stop and frisk policy. He said he wanted to force luxury real estate developers to build affordable housing. He proposed raising taxes on the rich to pay for universal preschool. And just weeks into his administration, some rich New Yorkers said the mayor had it so out for them, he wasn't plowing their streets.
New York City's brand new mayor has been accused of unfair treatment after that massive storm dumped nearly a foot of snow on Manhattan. People on the Upper East Side saying the plows didn't come fast enough, while other areas seem to have been cleared fairly quickly. And they are blaming the newly elected mayor for this.
I assumed that maybe we were being targeted, that maybe nobody cared about this part of town.
To his credit, the new mayor took the criticism, preposterous as it might have seemed, in stride and said more could have been done to serve the Upper East Side. Joining me now to outline his next battle plan and the terrifying, unceasing class war he's waging against job creators is none other than New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. Mayor, it's great to have you here.
It's great to be here, Chris.
How do you have become kind of a lightning rod in a national sense? You represent something. I want to play the sound of a guy across the river, Chris Christie, had something to say about you and your brand of governance. Take a listen.
When Rudy Giuliani was elected, I mean, that New York City was in a state of abject crisis where they felt like they needed somebody strong to take over the reins and move them in the right direction. And for 20 years, they had that type of leadership. New York City has now gone back to its traditional roots, which is as a home of liberal democratic politics. And Bill de Blasio represents that. You want income equality? That's mediocrity. Everybody can have an equal mediocre salary. That's what we can afford. Or do you want the opportunity for greatness?
What do you say to that?
I think our society can't be great if we don't address inequality. I think right now we've sadly ended up in a situation where a lot of people are working very, very hard and feel like they're falling behind. They're not even breaking even. And, you know, right now in our city, 46% of our people at or near the poverty level. That's not a formula for greatness. So I think Chris Christie couldn't be more wrong. We have to fight inequality so we can be great again. And New York City, by the way, is a place over decades and decades that believed in using the tools of government to create more fairness, that believed if people had opportunity, immigrants or, you know, born here alike, that would actually energize the whole economy, the whole society. And that slipped away so intensely. It's our job in this time to fight inequality and not allow what we have, which is a tale of two cities. It's not something we can allow.
One of the tale of two cities themes you returned in the campaign was about stop and frisk. It was about police and the likelihood of particularly young men of color being pulled over by the police. Mm-hmm. New York City was contesting a lawsuit finding that its practice was unconstitutional. One of the first things you've done as mayor is to not appeal that. Was that a hard decision or an easy one?
It was something I said I would do and I believed in, and I have to give a lot of credit to Bill Bratton, our police commissioner, and Zachary Carter, who's the chief lawyer for the city. We all got together and said, look, we are not going to continue a lawsuit meant to support a broken policy and an unfair policy. We're going to come to a settlement with the Civil Liberties Union and the Center for Constitutional Rights and say together we're going to end up with an accountable plan to actually bring police and community back together and respect constitutional rights.
So here's the rub. Now look, these numbers are fascinating. 2013, New Yorkers were stopped. In 2011, New Yorkers were stopped 685,724 times. By 2013, this is before you've even taken office, it falls off the table, okay? Is there a sense in which you and Commissioner Bratton can say, 7 weeks in, we've done it. Mission accomplished. Look at the numbers. We're not doing the same thing. We agreed. We entered into a settlemental lawsuit. Cross that off the list.
No, there's more work to be done. Now, the reason those numbers started to turn was because there was a movement in this town. I was honored to be a part of it. There was an extraordinary Father's Day march in June of 2012. It was really a pinnacle point where people demanded change from the grassroots. And so the numbers, the police policies finally began to change. Now, we inherit a police department that needs a reset. And Commissioner Bratton's really said it beautifully. He said very simple concepts. We need police in a way that is constitutional, respectful, and compassionate. He says this wherever he goes, and he's telling his troops this is going to be a new approach. And by the way, a lot of cops on the beat will be the first to say they look forward to being in greater unity with communities and working together and not working off a quota where they have to get a certain number of stops regardless of the validity. And the other thing that Bratton says is very powerful. He says you can't break the law to enforce the law. It's going to take some time to make sure that approach reaches down to the grassroots in every precinct and that there's real accountability. But we're going to do that with our colleagues in the civil rights community, and we're going to get there.
Stop and frisk was one of your big campaign pledges. The other was universal pre-K and taxing millionaires. You are now in a battle, I think it's fair to say, with another Democrat in this state. I want to talk about that right after we take this quick break.